we spot a full set of polar armor, chest piece included. Collectively as a set, polar armor will afford its wearer 93 points of base damage protection, weigh you down by 48 of whatever unit of measurement of one's body, and it just overall has a much more primitive vibe than what the dwarves created, appearing to have been fashioned from the exoskeletons of giant cave insects and human bones. One would imagine Weber bronze would be far stronger, though I suppose not. Say what you will, but these angry mutants that can only be earned after the Dark Brotherhood quest line has been completed, and what's left of the faction has moved into their Dawnstar Sanctuary. Because, well, some bad things happened to the last one. At this point, the Dragonborn will be given the quest Where You Hang Your Enemy's Head, which enables you to purchase various new upgrades to the Brotherhood's headquarters. If the Dragonborn chooses to buy the Master Bedroom upgrade, then the next time you return to the hideout and enter the new room, you'll find amongst an assortment of new goodies and furniture the special tumbler bag gloves lying atop a pedestal, and they'll be all yours for the taking. These hand warmers come as a variant of normal shrouded gloves, but boast a unique enchantment that makes locks 20% easier for their wearer to pick, hence the name, tumbler bag, because get it gloves. Although they do weigh the same, and tumblers sell for 200 more gold, with a value of 325. Regardless of their core protection, this article of apparel is both incredibly rare, and it can be of great service for those looking to break into places where they're not welcome. Coming in at number 3, we journey to the deepest depths of the Labyrinthian, an ancient Nord ruin that once stood as a proud, bustling metropolis thousands of years ago. But all that's left now is some piles of rubble and subterranean structures. During the climactic College of Winterhold quest, the Staff of Magnus, we'll be sent beneath this former city to recover a magical artifact and stop a treacherous Thalmor agent from possibly destroying Tamriel, though it's kind of hard to figure out what his intentions were. Alas, that's a narrative we can explore in a future video. Instead, what I'm interested in is the Ancient Helmet of the Unburned, a special piece of headgear we can find once we've been given access to the Labyrinthians underground during the Staff of Magnus College quest. Here, within a specific chamber we enter just before venturing into Shalador's maze, a locked gate can be found, and behind it, the Ancient Helmet of the Unburned proudly rests atop an ancient Nordic greatsword, appropriately driven into a burning fire. Simply pick the lock on the gate, perhaps with the help of your new tumbler-band gloves, and this item will be all yours. The Ancient Helmet of the Unburned, as its name suggests, is an ancient Nord helmet with an enchantment that increases the fire resistance of the OG who puts it on their head by a pretty substantial 40%. Aside from the enchantment, the Unburned helmet also distinguishes itself from the store brand by being worth 14 times as much gold, with a value of 841 coins compared to a measly 60. That's enough to buy an ebony helmet and still have 91 gold left over to play with. On second thought, actually, maybe you should just sell the thing. Our fourth item is not found in the depths of some spooky, scary dungeon, but instead the lavish and extravagant court of Solitude's Blue Palace, at least most of the time. You see, Riley, one of the city's things, has a custom pair of bracers of all things. Yes, she dons the unique fine arm guards, technically an article of light armor with a special texture, and that can be found nowhere else in the entire game. Now, to get these, chances are you're going to have to take them from her cold, dead hands. Literally, as there's really no other way. According to the wiki, they can be stolen from her inventory with the perfect touch, pickpocket Brotherhood quest, and assassinated Victoria Beachy. It's not clear why Skyrim keeps her as essential until this point in the game, seeing as she plays absolutely zero part in the quest. But once it's over, you'll be free to murder her to death and take the bracers from her inventory. They offer a base armor rating of 7, weight of 0.5, and sell for 25 septums. So not necessarily the best piece either, though it's worth pointing out, despite having a unique texture, the fine arm guards don't necessarily have a unique model. There's a single other pair of bracers in the game line that shares this one's shape, however has a bit brighter of a color. Ulfric's Stormcloak's bracers, oddly enough. Ulfric's bracers provide even less protection than these, quite unfitting for the leader of a rebellion. Alas, that's no reason not to steal those too, I suppose. Though, just remember, if you put these on, then you can't wear your tumbler pins. So you've got to make a decision. Before we get to our final spot, I've got one brief honorable mention. Remember how we began this video with Fulmer armor? Well, we were actually only looking at one of a couple tiers of Fulmer armor available in Skyrim. The Dawnguard DLC introduced Fulmer heavy armor that could be looted from the remains of the twisted creatures. Like the normal stuff, you can't craft or purchase it. It can only be taken from their corpses. Unlike the first set, though, it is also possible to find all of the pieces of Fulmer heavy armor, including the chest plates, in their inventories. So it's a good bit easier to build a full set out of it, which is why I'm simply regarding this as an honorable mention. Despite being somewhat less challenging to acquire, Fulmer heavy armor does offer far more protective capabilities, with a combined armor rating of 96, as much as ebony, while still weighing a good deal less. The appearance, as I'm sure you can tell, is also certainly something to behold. It almost makes the wearer look alien, and I absolutely love it. So, make sure you're checking the inventories of all those Fulmers you slay. I think it'll pay off in the long run. And finally, last on our list, this one's pretty cool, as it seems to be a piece of clothing Bethesda didn't want us to obtain in the first place. The Telvanni robes. During the Dragonborn DLC quest, Old Friends, we'll confront Ildari Sorrowthrill, a Dunmer necromancer responsible for the two plague of ash spawn that are currently terrorizing Solstheim. She has some old ties to Nella, a prominent ally of ours in the DLC's main quest line, but that's neither here nor there. During Old Friends, it'll be our job to track down Ildari to her hideout and put an end to her necromantic practices. On her body, we'll be able to loot her unique apparel, the Telvanni robes. And oh my, is this not a strange set of clothes? Hey, that rhymes. At first, the robes seem normal enough, offering no additional armor, selling for 75 gold, and weighing you down by 2. But increasing your magicka regeneration by a factor of 75%. Quite useful for any mage. As you can see, they look just fine on my male character. However, if you put these on a female character, their mesh will change to now feature bloodstains and a large stone harness, just like the one Ildari was wearing. She, of course, was sort of in this weird half-dead state, and was only able to function thanks to the energy of a heartstone that was in the place of her, well, heart. Hence the reason she needed this harness. Our character, or really any other character, doesn't have rocks in their heartstone, so this harness is going to look really weird and misplaced. There is one other enemy we face off in the game, an undead man by the name of Volks Carius that depends on a similar mechanism to stay alive-ish, what with the harness and heartstone and everything. The game doesn't let us take his armor off of his corpse though, likely because it would look weird. Bethesda seems to have forgotten to apply the same logic to this dress, however, and did not remember to make it unequivocable by the player or any other NPCs. In fact, the unofficial patch mod makes this item unobtainable, so if you want to collect this item, make sure you disable that mod. Not terribly much more I can add here. If you want to get a glitched item for yourself, then know that that's possible, I suppose. Anyway, with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 more rare and unique armors you may have missed in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Part 2. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these was your favorite? Did you find any already by yourself? Leave a comment down below, or join the discussion over on the Discord. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. If you really enjoyed, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to enable notifications. I'm told they actually work now. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video.
It's a brand new exclusive event with all your favorite South Park characters.
I had spicy diarrhea all night. Oh, hamburgers.
South Park, joining the Pandaverse, all new.
sorts of diverse pieces of equipment. And something that's always fascinated me about the Elder Scrolls V is its almost endless selection of potential armors and apparel. Indeed, way back in 2011 when I first picked up Skyrim, one of the missions I assigned myself over a weekend was to try and find every single piece of armor in the game. Suffice to say, that was not a mission I succeeded in. And frankly, I'm still not sure if I finished. Anyway, you get the idea. A lot of clothes to wear. But a handful of Skyrim's attire options are particularly unique, can be found only once, with special abilities, appearances, and/or backstories that make them really cool. And it's of those I thought we'd discuss today. So sit back and relax as we take a look at 5 secret and unique armors in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Starting off, we have the Visage of the Zund. This unique artifact can be found far from the shores of Skyrim, instead on the island of Solstheim, within the dwarven ruins of Volvathar's. Volvathar's is a truly massive complex, a dungeon where you'll have to fight your way through riflings, dwarven machines, and giant insects, as well as solve a couple of puzzles if you ever hope to reach the end. However, once you do, the Dragonborn will find themselves in a small treasure room, filled mostly with gold and some random level loot. But amongst the goodies will be a unique dwarven helmet, the Visage of the Zund. At first glance, it looks like any other dwemer piece of headgear. But a look at the object's stats, as well as a peek at its enchantment, tells a much different tale. Boasting a stunning rating of 24 points, it's tied for the highest base armor stat of any helmet in the entire game, with the Dragon Priest mask Canaric. For comparison, a Daedric helmet offers only 17. Additionally, with a value of 1,000 gold, the Visage is 5 times as pricey as a normal dwarven helmet variant. But perhaps the coolest thing about the Zund are its 2 enchantments. The first being a 60-point increase to stamina when equipped. That's 6 levels worth, which is pretty helpful. And the second is the Breath and Shock. I think I butchered that pronunciation, but we'll just keep going. This allows the wearer to release a powerful steam attack. The way this works is that when the item is being worn, a new power will become available in your magic menu. And when activated and triggered, a massive steam will be delivered from the helmet, dealing 15 points of damage to enemies at the cost of not magicka, but 85 points of stamina. This steam attack appears to be inspired by a similar one often used by dwarven centurions. And all in all, it's not really that powerful. But it certainly is a unique feature that few other items can emulate. Plus, as we've already mentioned, the rest of the Visage of the Zund stats do more than enough to earn it a comfortable spot in this video. Next on our list, speaking of the dwarves, the ruins of Alfheim tell a sad story. Here, not too long ago, a group of adventurers and researchers embarked on an expedition to recover lost ancient artifacts. But things went horribly wrong. You see, the explorers didn't account for the local Falmer population, and as a result, the majority of the team was killed in a series of ambushes and raids. A few have survived, and are actually still holding out down here, though they're quickly losing it. Among those still standing will be a red-guard woman by the name of Umana. When we find her, she'll be in the company of an Imperial called Sola. An argument will break out between the two, and they will quickly enter combat. The winner will go on to attack the player. Spoiler alert, due to her better stats, it's usually Umana who wins the fight and ends up fighting us. That all said, once they're both taken care of, the Dopamine will notice that in the Red Guard's inventory is a unique shield, the Targe of the Blooded. Immediately, the first thing that'll stick out about this item is its appearance. No pun intended. A series of spikes protruding from the object's wooden base define its special model, and while the base stats aren't anything to write home about, being about on par with a typical iron shield, the Targe's enchantment clearly reflects its unique appearance. The shield does 3 points of bleeding damage for 5 seconds with every dash, totaling to roughly 15 points of HP loss to enemies per hit, regardless of whatever armor they're wearing or whether or not they're blocking. 15 points isn't huge by itself, but since blocking and our opponent's armor isn't factored, the shield's raw damage output is in fact pretty good comparatively speaking, making it pretty viable. So while its application as a traditional shield may be somewhat mediocre, Targe of the Blooded in many ways can act as a useful secondary weapon of sorts, especially for characters with high stamina, allowing us to deal out strong attacks, all while still under the protection of blocking. Not much more to say. This is an item that definitely deserves a spot in any one-handed player's inventory. Our third spot is less about the item itself being so great, and more about the odd way we go about obtaining it that makes it pretty cool. At Hag's End, a Nordic burial chamber west of Solitude, populated mostly by four-sworn raiders and their hag-ridden allies, after you make your way through the majority of the structure, at the end of the dungeon, the Dominican will find themselves on an outdoor ledge, peppered with all sorts of treasures as a reward. But if you turn east, you'll notice a waterfall coming off the cliffside. This cliffside seems inaccessible at first, but a whirlwind sprint shout will be enough to launch our character onto it. And once here, you'll notice a pair of boots. The Predator's Grace, as they're known, tucked beside a tree and a chest which contains some random level loot. These secret shoes have the same model and base armor as generic high boots, but they do come with a couple of enchantments that are worth talking about. The first of which muffles the wearer and allows you to move silently. An excellent sneaky little advantage for all you lovers of stealth. Its second enchantment improves your stamina regeneration speed by a whopping 1%. Which isn't the greatest enchantment ever, but it's something. Suffice to say, while I probably won't be caught wearing the Predator's Grace very often, if at all, the difficulty we go through to acquire them makes these boots a worthy addition to any collection. Coming at number 4 is the Helm of Angel. This is a piece of headgear that offers both a unique appearance and a backstory. Plus, it's pretty useful, making for the best kind of trifecta. She can be acquired at Ingal's Barrow, another ancient Nordic tomb in the East March after you've cleared it and faced the dungeon's boss, a spectral draugr named, you guessed it, Ingal. Its model is similar to that of an ancient Nordic helmet, with a slimmer trim and longer protruding horns. And it's got an armor rating of 21, which isn't quite as good as the Visage of the Sun, but still very strong in its own right. As mentioned, this item has a neat background, as we learn about it in the book Ingal and the Sea of Ghosts. It belonged to Ingal, the son of the Nordic hero and original conqueror of Skyrim, Ysgramor. The poor boy never got a chance to take part in his father's heroic exploits. According to legend, as the army was sailing from the now lost continent of Amora down to Skyrim, Ingal's ship was separated from the rest in the midst of the storm, and afterwards, he and his crew were found by mysterious creatures called the Sea Ghosts, which apparently slaughtered them all and buried him here in this tomb with his old helmet. So the helm we find at this location is far more than just an above-average bit of apparel. It's a piece of Skyrim's very history. And finally, last on the list, in my top 5 unique weapons video that I uploaded around a week ago, I ended it by taking a look at a sword called Windshear that can be found on the Cataraya, the Emperor's personal ship, during the Dark Brotherhood quest, Hail Sippus, where we're sent to murder the Emperor to death. So I figured it would be kind of poetic if we ended this video by showing off the unique bit of armor we obtained during the same quest aboard that same ship. Here, within the Emperor's own quarters, the very room we do indeed in, all sorts of expensive and valuable knickknacks dot the living space. However, lying on a shelf near Titus II's bed will be a unique set of bracers, called the Gilded Wrist Guards. This is the only place you can get your hands on this item in the entire game. And while the wrist guard stats aren't great, offering 7 armor points and selling for just 21 gold, they do come with a glittering custom-made texture, which is always fun. I'll admit, this is probably the least practical armor piece we covered in today's video, but I never promised you'd always want to wear these armor types. I mean, they're interesting, but not always the most effective. Frankly, I'm unsure why Bethesda didn't give this item more opportunities to spawn in. I mean, at least the other ones function sort of as rewards for clearing a dungeon or discovering a secret area in a way. You don't really have to do anything special to get these wrist guards, or at least not anything extra excluding the rest of the Dark Brotherhood quest. Oh well, at least the next time you find yourself invited to a party at the Talmor Embassy, your wrists will be appropriately dressed, I suppose. Anyway, on that note, we are going to wrap up. 5 secret unique armor pieces in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of the sets we took a look at today did you find to be the most interesting? And what special pieces of armor or clothing do you know of that you think deserve to be covered? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.
What do you think your teeth really are? Let's try the tissue test. Ugh. Still yellow. There's toothpaste wipe and there's Crest 3D White Strips wipe. They wipe like a $300 professional treatment. And to maintain your brightest smile, try Crest 3D White toothpaste.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Jake here, and welcome back to our
Ghost is back. It's our fucking time, Jesus. He's my main guy.
Dissect the unique bows, blades, battle axes, and other tools for dealing with our foes in the Elder Scrolls V. However effective they may be. Regardless, if there's only a single one available, and how to obtain it isn't obvious, it qualifies. Skyrim is a game where we're exposed to thousands of generic steel, swords, and iron axes. So it's nice to find and learn the world for distinctive items. Anyway, without further ado, take back by the fire, have Sadia bring over a nice cool glass of mead and relax, as we jump right into our third installment of 5 secret unique weapons you may have missed in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Starting off, we have the Dwarven Black Bow of Fate. This special device of whoever damage delivery can be found within the ruins of Kagrumes on the island of Solstein. Now, Kagrumes is a very special dungeon, in that it's a massive structure, littered with complicated puzzles, territorial automatons, and odd prerequisite requirements to enter, yet not attached to any notable quests. You can get inside Kagrumes just fine, but in order to really begin doing anything here, you'll first need to acquire 4 Kagrumes Resonance Gems, special stones that can be found scattered across Solstein, and insert them as keys in the appropriate device in a very specific pattern. Doing this will not only unlock the necessary doors so you can continue exploring this place, but it triggers a process we call the Trials of Kagrumes. That is to say, you'll be forced to fight your way through 3 layers of different traps, robots, and puzzles in order to make it throughout this complex. But once the nightmare has been completed and you've successfully pushed through the gauntlet, you'll arrive in the final chamber of the structure, where, lying peacefully on its rack, the unique Dwarven Black Bow of Fate awaits your plumbing embrace. The bow itself boasts a somewhat custom appearance, using a similar model to that of a traditional Dwarven bow, but using a black rather than golden color scheme, as well as coming with some unique lighting effects. From a stat perspective, this bow doesn't initially appear to be all that superior to a traditional Dwarven bow, dealing just a single point of damage more than its generic counterpart. However, what really draws players into this bow is their enchantments, because every arrow fired from the bow has a 50% chance to absorb 25 points worth of health, stamina, and or magicka when contacted made with the bow. Notice how I said and or. Each of these damage types is calculated independently, and therefore it's very much possible for the bow to do all 3 in a single shot, or just enough. Depending on the arrows you decide to use, and, well, fate, the Dwarven Black Bow of Fate can be a pretty effective tool in ranged combat. Additionally, she can be improved at a grindstone using ebony ingots, as opposed to normal iron and Dwarven bows, to make her even more lethal. So, if you're feeling a little lucky and want to engage in some ranged gameplay, I definitely recommend you investigate this item. Next on the list, we've touched upon this in a past time detailed video, but nonetheless, we'll be descending into the dark, literal, and metaphorical criminal underworld of Riffin's sewage system. A series of pipes and tunnels that serve as a refuge for those who can't dare venture into the outside world. Indeed, it's unsurprisingly where the Thieves Guild operates out of, so we'll probably be stopping by pretty often on most playthroughs. During your time traversing these spooky sewers, you may be attacked by all sorts of deranged individuals, and among them, a Nord by the name of John the Fist. What's so unique about this man in particular is that he'll come at the player seemingly unarmed and just attempt to punch you to death. Once you've dispatched of this man, one can loot his inventory to find the pair of fur gloves he's wearing are in fact a unique item. The glove being classified as an apparel item, they might as well be a weapon, as the wearer of the gloves will have their unarmed combat damage increased by a pretty major 10 points of damage per strike. For some context, human and elder characters have a base unarmed combat of just 4, so wearing came up to 14, a 150% increase in unarmed effectiveness. What's more, Argonian and Khajiit characters, who have a base unarmed combat of 20 and 22 respectively, will be bumped up to 30 and 32. Keep in mind, a Daedric Greatsword has a base damage of just 24 points. So, giving those races these gloves, they turn unarmed combat into an incredibly effective way to play the game, especially early on. And if you want to have even more fun, they can also be disenchanted to learn the Fortify Unarmed damage enchantment, which can then be applied to other gloves as well as rings for an even greater effect. This is the only way such an enchantment can be obtained, as no other items in the game have it, and it can't be learned from spell buttons. That said, we have indeed seen the gloves of the Pugilist before. In the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, we had a chance to randomly find them as iron gauntlets in containers and the bodies of certain enemies. Though clearly since then, somehow they've made their way into the dirty hands of this rifted miscreant. I think it's high time that we finally get them back to someone more worthy. Gentlemen and the forests of Baldric are one of my favorite locations in the game. A peaceful land of ruins and wildlife, sparsely interrupted by human civilization. Alas, sparse interruptions are still interruptions nonetheless. And near the hidden bandit stronghold of Pine Watch, we can find a patch of forest that's clearly in the process of being chopped down. Further inspection of the area will reveal the corpse of our culprit. A dead Breton man, named Woodcutter, lies hunched against a tree, and next to its remains, a unique war axe, the Woodsman's Friend, sits for the taking. It's left unexplained what led to this friend's death. Nearby he has a cup still sitting on a tree stump, so whatever it was likely recent. There's all sorts of unfriendly wildlife and evildoers in these parts, though also no signs of a struggle at all, and he hasn't been looted, so foul play in any capacity is quite unlikely. Maybe a heart attack? Whatever the case, we're here for his unique play. The Woodsman's Friend is by no means a weapon you're going to want to use very extensively. It is absolutely identical to a normal iron battle axe in everything but damage and swing speed. It does a stunning 1 extra point of damage than a typical battle axe.
Oh, wow.
17 versus 16.
We're close to playoff spot, Ashbury.
Stronger. Not great, but hey, an increase is an increase, right? So this thing is at least a little better. Well, even this minute improvement is entirely offset, because the Woodsman's Friend has a swing speed that is about 15% slower than a generic iron battle axe. This results in a much lower damage per second overall. And unlike that damage stat, which can be offset through a variety of enchantments and smithing improvements, there's not much of a way to speed up an item's swing speed, giving us virtually no reason whatsoever to go with this one over the store brand. That said, bragging rights are still a thing, and a lot of us are still going to want to hang this up in our home. I just wouldn't recommend ever taking it off the rack. For Woodspot, we make a dramatic return to Solstheim. Rodier Grove is a small gathering of large stones at the center of the island, where a small gang of reavers have decided to take up their residence. Initially, these ashy bandits seem to behave like any other, acting with hostility and charging at any moving creature they can in the hopes of plunder and profit. But after you clear them all out, you'll discover that this gang's reaver lord wasn't wielding a normal sword when he attacked you. No, in his inventory will be the uniquely named claymore, Stormfang. Now, Stormfang shares a model at most of its base stats with an ordinary steel greatsword, those being 17 points of base damage, 17 weight, and a value of 1,175 septims. Though it's the lore behind this blade and their special enchantments that make it really stand out. In the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind's Bloodmoon DLC, which also took place on Solstheim, the Neremarine could find a Nordman named Ulfgar the Unending at his home, which was suspiciously close to Brodier's Grove. He claimed to be over 500 years old, refusing to die until he could find a warrior capable of sending him to Sovngarde. Ulfgar would request that the player agreed to face off in battle, hoping that you would win so he could finally pass on in peace. If any of you have ever had that random encounter with an old orc looking for a good death, this was pretty much the same thing. The weapon Ulfgar would use in your ensuing showdown would be none other than a sword named Stormfang, which of course could be looted as your reward for finally granting the elderly man his wish. Stormfang in Morrowind had a shock damage enchantment that would do anywhere between 1 and 20 points of electric damage per hit. Likewise, in Skyrim, her enchantment does a guaranteed 30 points of shock, plus 15 points of magicka damage. So, the Elder Scrolls V version may be marginally better than the original. Nonetheless, much like the Feudalist's gloves, I have some serious questions regarding how the sword found its way from the Nerevarines' hands all the way back here. But that's probably a mystery for another day. And finally, last on our list, we have another item that's more or less just a good decoration piece. But still
I can't do that
what
shit.
I think is quite
And
the
besides,
hilarious
the seats will be still over anyway.
Crystal Drift Cave is a
Can't
tiny
fail.
cave located in the Rift. Inside, you'll find a variety of not-so-friendly furry friends that will attempt to devour the Dovahkiin. Once they've been dealt with, you'll also notice people were clearly living here. And, located atop a large pile of rocks at the cave's center, you'll see the body of Gadnor, a dead elf. And next to him is his unique staff, Gadnor's Staff of Charming. It's not immediately apparent what caused this character to die, but more on that later. Gadnor's Staff of Charming, curiously, isn't a Staff of Charming at all. Its enchantment is in fact a fury one, causing creatures and people up to level 4 to attack anything nearby for 60 seconds. So right off the bat, it's apparent this isn't the most powerful item, though it is one of the only ways to come in contact with a fury enchantment early in the game, without you needing to do anything. So there is that. But what strikes me so much about this item is its contradicting name. A Staff of Charming that causes people to go crazy. What's going on here? Initially, I suspected maybe Bethesda just made a mistake with the naming, and that's what the wiki proposes. However, I've got a different theory. Remember, we found this item lying next to the body of Gadnor the Elf, who himself was lying on a large pile of rocks. And surrounding this character, when we arrived, were all sorts of hostile creatures. Here's what I think happened. I suspect Gadnor used to live in this cave all by himself, but one day a large number of animals and creatures came running in. Terrified, he climbed on top of these rocks and tried to use his staff to calm them down. But obviously it didn't work that well. And eventually he probably just starved to death, afraid to come down with a kitty. And the name of this staff was just Bethesda being a little bit sarcastic. Alternatively, it's also possible that maybe Gadnor thought his staff was a Staff of Charming, but when he used it, he only further agitated all the creatures trying to eat him, which is even a little bit more hilarious. However he passed away, it'll be up to us to take his staff and put it to good use. Or, if we're being honest, since it's not that great, just sell it at a vendor, but do you. And with that final note of brutalism, we are going to wrap up. 5 more hidden and unique weapons in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Part 3. Thanks for watching, everybody. Which of these puppies did you find to be the most fun, or otherwise the coolest? And which would you just never touch? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.
Oh wow, he was a point per game. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm not fired as coach. I want to stay this fan on the top line. Yeah, I'm not a designer for some ladies.